stiff. I don't know why that word keeps coming to mind. Anyway, videos show that the President Trump sort of asked some really uncomfortable questions that were directed at Ramaphosa, and some even called it some baseless claims of the systematic killing of white farmers in the country. Well, during the meeting, he said that people are fleeing South Africa for their own safety. Whether or not this is true, or people are just taking advantage of the fact that U.S. is now open to white South Africans to come in under the guise of refugees, is yet to be seen, because that is also a likelihood. People may just be moving to USA at this time, because we know that the economy of South Africa, the rand as a currency, is not doing very well. Economic situation is not in its greatest state right now in the country. So the question is, are people, some of these people who are moving, taking advantage of the open doors that South Africa has, that US of A has brought to the fore, are they just moving because they want a better life, because they want a life in a different country? Or is this really based on some facts that there is white genocide going on in South Africa? Here is still part of what Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, had to say about his meeting with US President Donald Trump.
Then to have really good in-depth exchanges with Mr. President Trump and his other officials. The discussions revolved, of course, around golf, but they also revolved around issues of trade and investment. And we were able to, in discussing all that, one, to confirm that there will continue to be engagement between South Africa and the United States officials,
not coming forward with it yet, of that meeting with US President Donald Trump in the White House. Anyway, fingers crossed. Of course, even if they are not saying it, actions are going to speak, and we'll just keep tabs as they unfold. We're bringing you updates right here on News Across Africa. Okay, from South Africa, let's head on straight to East Africa, Kenya particularly, where there are reports about wildlife conservation, where rhinos in Kenya are getting their ears notched to be tracked. They are darted from above, they are sedated safely, they are surrounded, and then an army of veterinarians and rangers from the Liwa Wildlife Conservatory and the Kenya Wildlife Service then move in swiftly to dodge their ears and mark them of some sort so that they are able to be tracked. And according to the team, the people who are doing this, they said it's an effort to protect these wildlife because they're going in extinction. There's a narrow window to act. With precision, they cut a very small triangle from the rhino's ears. And one of the top officials of the move, head of conservation and wildlife at Liwa Conservancy, Dominic Maringa, he said, we carry out this rhino notching exercise after every 2 years, purposely to make sure that we are able to identify individual rhinos by their numbers. Here, the calving, that's the breeding of rhinos, is very high, and therefore the population is coming up as soon as possible because of the kind of ecosystem support to the rhino population right here is viable. And this is a time when we need to take this seriously because they're a critically endangered species. They are now making a cautious comeback. In the 70s, poaching decimated population. Tens of thousands were wiped out of their homes. But a new era of protection has changed the story. That's what he had to say about it. Wow. Okay. Still trying to get SAPs from that, but it seems like it's taking a little too long, so we might just move on now. Right. Burkina Faso's military leaders are turning to Africa's Che Guevara to rally struggling countries. From that end, Well, they've turned to a man once known as Africa's Che Guevara as a way to rally a country struggling to defeat extremists, and they're also turning away from their former Western allies. They're saying that if we must win the war, it has to be from within. I mean, we need to exhaust our internal options, our internal people gathered in the capital, Ouagadougou, for the opening of a mausoleum for legendary leader Thomas Sankara. Remember, I took the story. So he said, well, it's been nearly 4 decades since the death of Sankara, and they're still celebrating in their number. And one of the things they're doing to mark the works, the investments, and the sacrifice of Thomas Sankara is ensuring that everything that has to do with extremism in the country is wiped out. In fact, Timothy, a 22-year-old man who was interviewed, said, when I stepped inside the mausoleum, I felt the revolution. It's taking force and it has come to stay. Sankara's mausoleum was designed by Pritzker Architecture Prize winner. Good. It has been welcomed with open arms. So one thing that everyone is saying is that this move to engage more people within the country, within Africa in itself, to ensure that Burkina Faso, is that country that other African countries will look up to, is actually gaining momentum. FM 93.7, we're looking at news across Africa. Started off with news from South Africa. Well, it was not exactly South Africa, it was from USA, but the president of South Africa is in USA in meetings with the president of USA related to the goings-on in South Africa. So that's where we took off from, and then made a stop in Kenya in East Africa, then to Burkina Faso. And now let's see what DR Congo has for us. There's a top court in DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, that has sentenced former Prime Minister Matata Ponyo Mapon to 10 years of forced labor after convicting him of embezzling $245 million from a failed agricultural project. So the court found him guilty because they said, the entire idea of that agricultural project was a lie. It was just a thing to siphon wealth. Ponyo served from 2012 to 2016 under former President Joseph Kabila, and he was tried in absentia along with former central bank governor of the country, Deogratias Mutombo, and South African businessman Christo Grobler. Now, both Mutombo and Grobler received 5-year sentences. None of the three is in custody at the moment. Remember, they were tried in absentia, but as it stands now, Mapon has 10 years of forced labor on his head for embezzling $245 million, and Mutombo and Grobler have the charges relate to a massive corn farming project that was launched under Kabila's administration, and it collapsed in 2017. Remember, they were in office from 2012 to 2016. Well, just right about the time they left office, it began to collapse. It finally had its back on the ground in 2017, and investigations into the failed initiative began in 2021 under President Felix Tshisekedi. Ponyo remains in Kinshasa and is denied so far any wrongdoing, and he claims that the case is politically driven. Authorities believe that Grobler is in South Africa and Mutombo is in Belgium. So they're not even in DRC. See how they just went to different parts. Ponyo is in Kinshasa, Grobler is in South Africa, Mutombo is in Belgium. Kabila, who was president, left office in 2018, and he's been largely absent from Congo since 2023. So Tshisekedi's government has been accused, it has also accused the former president Kabila of backing the M23 rebel group in the whole crisis going on in DRC at the moment. Rwanda has been named, former president has been named, a lot of people have been named as to funding M23 rebels in the country. And we're able to take one more story on News Across Africa today. Sheng Xiang, who is Director, West Africa and Africa Department, Ministry of Commerce of China, has again reiterated China's commitment to expanding its investment in Africa by further promoting corporate cooperation in various fields. In fact, he spoke in Mandarin, so even if I played it, you may not be able to understand what he's saying because it's not English. So, translation of what he said African countries have the director, I was going to say the minister, he's not a minister yet, he works in the Ministry of Commerce. Director, I was going to say the minister, he's not a minister yet, he works in the Ministry of Commerce. He's a director in the Ministry of Commerce, West Africa and Africa Development, director of that department. He also added that the ministry will further enhance investments on the African continent by fostering cooperation, especially among small and medium-sized enterprises. And he's also gone ahead to promise support that will, be seen between young entrepreneurs from both regions. I mean, from Africa and also from China. 7:54 a.m. This is where we draw the curtains on News Across Africa. Don't forget, by 8 o'clock, we will switch gears, focus more on news across Nigeria. Let's see what's happening from across different dailies. We have Punch, Vanguard, Pen Pushing, and a couple of them. We're hoping for more to open because our source is looking like it's down at the moment, but let's see. We keep pushing. We'll bring them all to you. Stay with us. Citizen FM 93.7.
Are you a student looking for a voice?